Okay, so as Sylvia mentioned earlier, we're also working in the synthetic project, but I just got some information from her. So just looking at the due diligence registry and the online, the kind of mock-ups are in relation to providing a geolocation of the area of timber harvest. So just to kind of just bring back some basic things. So just in GPS, so GPS is so if you're walking with your phone, you want GPS readings, you're using SatNav. That's utilizing satellites that triangulate your position with them. And the general accuracy is generally around the 5 to 10 meters. The higher grade device that you're using, you're certainly down to sub-meter, but then those are in the thousands of euros for that type of equipment. They'll generally give readings in latitude, longitude, but also X, Y, Z coordinate. So your position on the Earth, the Z coordinate is your altitude. So all of that will affect the accuracy of the positioning. And then the WGS, the World Geodetic System, the current one there at the moment is WGS 84. So that's a methodology or a mechanism in place in order to further enhance the accuracy of the reading. So you're going to have issues of polarity and things like that. So those are the three main terms that you're doing. In the document that was provided, they're also talking about the GeoJSON. So basically GeoJSON is just a digital format of it. Within the GeoJSON, it's things can be standardized. It's quite widely recognized as a method or a file sharing system in technology, in providing geolocation data. It's a more concise file format for transferring more heavy loaded files. So the older methodologies would have contained, heavy data that is just more difficult to manage and process. So just kind of talk about just kind of a couple of the terms in relation to geometry. So like you can have points, lines, and polygons. So point can be a feature. For example, that may be your house, that location. It may be in a forest context. It may be the habitat of a badger or archaeology feature. Multi-point geometry is where you would draw a line around the perimeter of the property. That might relate to the extremities of the property. It may also quite tightly align with the boundary if there's a roadway moving along it. And then the other one then is multi-polygon. So that may be where you have multiple units of land or plots of land that may be part of a larger forest or project. So that typically forestry and forest estates, they will have numerous plots of land. Each of them will have their own identifier, but they may all be termed within the one forest. So that's what your multi-polygon terminology means. Sorry, now again. And my screen has frozen. So this is our platform, Forest HQ. We started off our life in measuring trees, measuring forests, helping people understand the volume of timber that may come from a forest prior to its harvest, try to help in the optimization in relation to the quantity of sawlog and pulpwood, for example. But since then, we've developed our technology mainly around the whole thing of integration of data. So you can have different forest owners managing and storing their data differently, how they term a forest, how they term their volumes. So it is about integrating that into a central platform. So we have, in relation to the data management, but also we've implemented functionality to create customized forms and tasks and activities. So an example of that would be related to forest certification, where you need to record information centrally, but also recording information out in the field. So we're linking with other third-party applications, for example, QField, for offline data recording and measurement. We've also linked with satellite data. So while everyone is familiar with their Google Earth and their Bing imagery, how do you get up-to-date imagery, and how can you also source historical satellite imagery, be it 12 months old or be it 5 years old? So there's a range of satellite providers there. So we've created linkages with those. So you select your forest and can download your imagery. We've also applied some machine learning techniques into the technology. For example, if there's canopy loss, tree loss cover, it will automatically detect that. We're also adding in some new features in relation to carbon measurement, reporting, biodiversity reporting. We always had our forest valuation. We provide simulation of harvesting for valuation, but also taking in data that's produced by these timber cutting machines into the system also. So we have these are main services, the data management, our mapping tools, Earth observation, satellite imagery analysis, timber accounting, forecasting, reporting on it, and then also having customized reports based on the templates you wish. This is just throwing an example of satellite imagery and what's termed satellite imagery and there's a cost for and what's free. But if I start at the top, the high resolution, that's typically what you're familiar with using in your Google Maps and your Bing Maps. So that's 30 centimeter to 50 centimeter resolution. So that means that every image, every pixel in that image, when it's related to its reference on the ground, it means 30 centimeters. So a foot by a foot pixel image. And that then will increase then up to 10-meter resolution. The difference in both of those systems is that your low resolution at that 10-meter, you will have quite more frequent overpasses of the satellite. So you have more frequent capture of the imagery as opposed to the more high resolution imagery. Also, the low resolution is free, whereas the higher resolution, there's a charge for it, typically 10 to 30 cents per hectare. But also the satellite providers have changed their business model. So when we were looking at this back in 2017, 2018, the minimum area that you could acquire was maybe 5 square kilometers or 10 square kilometers, and you're typically talking maybe 3 to 6, 7,000 euro for that image. So that was unrealistic as a usable tool. So thankfully, the satellite providers are now devise a model. You just put in the plot of land that you're interested in, and you just buy the imagery contained with that within that boundary. This is an example then of where we're using the satellite imagery for looking at canopy cover, but that can also be for removal of timber. So these are all tools that are out there. What we've done is integrating these tools into a forest management system and importantly, linking this mapping piece and this satellite imagery piece with the documentation that's supporting it. So quite frequently you have two separate systems. You have your forms, you have your documents, and then typically it's like a PDF map. But the two things aren't related. So what we've done is linking all of that information together, that you have both your satellite mapping, but also your documentation, and linked to all of the different activities that you will have in the forest. This again is just an example now of looking at canopy cover, canopy loss, and then some of the types of the digital reporting that we provide as well. You can set up your properties into, you can set up a project, and then within your project, you can have each of your individual properties. You can set up the project pertaining to a supplier of wood material, and then under their project, they can then provide, here are the lists of forests that we've sourced our wood from, and that then is provided to you. So it's customizable in that level of detail. We also then link with third-party applications. So if it's something from an audit that's needed to be done, or measurements that need to be taken out in the field, that can be done remotely, that can be done offline. You have all of your tools for drawing in, adding new information. That can be text, free text, and all of this then synchronizes back to the user's account and to the project. This is an example of information that we can display from the timber harvesting machines. So your modern machines, and certainly most of them within the UK, they're wheel-based machines, but every time that they cut a tree, they also record the timestamp of when that tree was cut. It records the timestamp of when the log was cut, the type of log that was cut, and certainly any of the machines, within 10 years will also have GPS recording as well. So what these red dots are geolocations of trees that are cut, and then on the table on the right-hand side is the log production, each of the commodities that was produced. So for example, even materials such as waste, so that would be material that was cut but wasn't within the specification of a log product. It would be left on site. That's also data that's recorded. So we have different dashboards, so you can look at the area that was cut, total volumes, cubic meters, what the tree size is, and then also the pertaining log production from that forest. So there are quite a lot of data sources within the forest industry that I feel can help to alleviate maybe some of the concerns that's within it. It will require some standardization, but it's not as onerous maybe as looking at it from above. I just wanted to reference again the project that we're involved with Sylvia and another group of researchers and SMEs from Scandinavia to Spain, Italy, France, Slovenia. So the idea here is that to track the log from the forest right through to the mill. So there's going to be a couple of different methods used. One is going to be the installation of an RFID tag into the log as it's cut. Another methodology will be the imprinting a stamp onto the end of the log that will be read by a camera at the mill. Then when the boards are produced at the mill, a camera system to almost look like as the grain of the board is produced, using that like a fingerprint. and using that as a method to link the board to the log and then the log back to the forest, and from within the forest, linking it with the actual tree that it's come from. So it's quite an ambitious project to do, but we've quite a strong link of partners within it. And as Sylvia said, it's a 4-year project running. We're just about halfway through there at the moment. Sorry, just a little bit, about 16 months into it. So that's the status on that. So that's my presentation. I'm just going to spend maybe just a couple of minutes just showing you some of the tools of the online platform. So if that's okay, Zara, to do that.
Yes, thank you, Garret.
Okay. And so is my viewers sharing with you now?
Not yet. We are still seeing the presentation
sorry,
slide.
no. Can you share?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Right. So as I was saying, you can have your list of properties underneath your user account or underneath the client's user account. They can all be set up here in the dashboard. But if I just want to say that I want to create, for this example, just create a new forest, I come in here, I can manually draw the boundary of that forest. I can create it from a digital file. So if that's already existing, or like a GeoJSON file, or I want to take in multiple forest plots into it. So I have those 3 methods to do. So just for simplicity, I'll just do a manual, and I'll just call it today's demo. EUDR. I want to call it as a forest property. I can give it my owner's name. So it's me. Manager is John, and the country is UK. So now I can come to a location. So I can either type in my coordinates of where the forest is that I'm in, or I can simply navigate around here. So here I'm somewhere in the borders, Scottish borders, and I want to select property. I can need to move to this. I can come in here and I can draw the boundary of my property here. So now I have this property created. So now I'll go back to my, I could also, in that example, I could also divide my property into several units as well. So I could split it, for example. So now here's that property generated here. So now that's that's me, should I say, GPS, that's me creating a boundary of the forest. So this file now I can export into any other system. Also in the system we have, and I just created just a mock-up kind of template of it, but if I here want to put in EUDR form, I can select that, I can add it. So EUDR form. I created as it was, as I understood it, for a lower risk country. I can set the status of it, so it's a new pending. So now here is just give me a second. So now I can start to add in new details into this. So I can either come in here. So I'll select, okay, that it's sawlog. I can select the species. I have to select what species it is with its Latin name. And then I can put in the weight. It's specifying weight, even though forest measurement is in volume, and also the data produced from the timber harvesting machines is in volume. So it's only at a weight when it arrives at the middle gate and goes over the weighbridge. But anyway, I can enter here. I can add in another product, fencing, same species. And so that's that done. So now I've added in all of this information. I can select then where it's from. So I can, etc. Data production. So any of these information. So you can select when it was produced. Sorry. Okay. So anyway, I'm just showing you some of the tools that are there. So you can put that together. I can then, if I want to add a document into it, I can select a document, choose a file. So here's just a file that I've taken. So that can be a PDF, that can be an Excel, that can be whatever information that you want to support your information. So I suppose the main message that I'm also seeing here now is that we're linking that spatial information of the forest with all of your documentation information here as well. So the two things are cross-referenced. And then when it comes to the reporting, you've everything then gathered together, both the geolocation information and also your reporting. That's kind of then sorry, I was going to then show you some of the, if I want to select some satellite imagery, I can come in here. So that's my old Bing image. I can come in here. I can add a layer. I can come select my satellite image. So this is Sentinel-2, which is free. I can go back to 1st of May. I can go to 8th of June. You can select cloud cover, but I'll just do that. So now the request is coming from the platform back to the portal containing the satellite imagery. This will just take a few seconds for me to, I'll definitely have it within 30 seconds. It'll give me the range of satellite imagery that's here for it. I can then select it. So here now it is giving me a satellite image on the 18th of May, but it's also saying that I've got 16%, almost 17% cloud cover. Here I've got 40% cloud cover. So it'll rank it in relation to the amount of cloud cover. So this is one limitation for your satellite image is your cloud cover. But if I select that and I want to look at it, that's outside of my area of interest. I'll go here. We actually have some cloud cover here, but just to show you, I can then download that image. That image now comes back down, and that will take about a minute or so for that to appear. So again, that's that menu. It will also then If I want to select other types of satellite imagery, I have Worldview, GOI. These are all back to that more high resolution imagery. Spot imagery is a resolution of 1.5 meters, certainly quite good. Plate is another quite good imagery data set. So I'll just shoot back to show you some of the tools we're working with.
I apologize, Gary, but we may need to be quite quick on this next one.
Yeah. So here's that. And here's a range of satellite images that I have. So this is the image as it is on Bing as a viewer, but if I look at it from the Sentinel image back in January, I can see that there's forest change here. So this area here has been harvested before January. If I go here to a high resolution imagery that I brought in, here now is Pleiades imagery, and I can actually see the live harvesting happening in that. And actually here is the timber cutting machine at its location. Here's all of the logs as they're being produced. So all of that from a change detection we can start to work with. And then if I go to February of this year, actually what happened here was we had a storm at the end of January, so I can actually detect trees being damaged from that. So that's pretty much it. Well, as I said, we can have all of these different templates if I want to set up different activities. So while it may be the one forest, you can have multiple submenus or subtasks within it. So that can be, you can have your day-to-day forest management, but also if it was your harvesting or your replanting, all of these activities can be there. So you can show then from a compliance perspective, yes, the trees have been removed, but it's from within the legal perimeter of what I was allowed to. And then over time, I can actually show you then the activity of the trees being re-established either naturally or through manual planting. Okay,